Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. Hope you all been doing well here. No videos haven't been coming super consistently here, but just been a bit busy, but we're back at it here. Obviously today talking about a little Xbox price increases. Xbox and Microsoft, I guess. First big video game company to kind of follow Nintendo through the proverbial floodgates that they opened back about, has it been a month? I don't know, a few weeks at least. Since Nintendo increased their prices of both their video games as well as their console from the last generation, anyways. But yeah, pretty big news, I guess, in the economics of video games, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yeah, Xbox increasing some of the prices of their at least big first-party video games from $60 or $70 to $80, following suit with Nintendo there, as well as increasing some of their prices for their consoles fairly significantly, which is a bit of a puzzling move, not only because it's kind of a mid to kind of later end generation price increase, which generally you see prices decrease or get good bundle deals and stuff as the consoles and generations and everything get older and get further along. Xbox doing the opposite, and a pretty puzzling move that has kind of lost them a good amount of goodwill and doesn't seem to make a ton of economic sense for them to be doing this at the moment. But yeah, regardless, that's the situation we find ourselves in today. Or, it's obviously not broke. The news wasn't broke today, and the gaming prices increased price will be coming soon, but not today. But yeah, puzzling move here from Xbox, a company that seemingly had a lot of goodwill being built up by a lot of their recent moves and game releases. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion being a part of that. Game Pass obviously being always being a great deal helps as well. On top of that, stuff like obviously breaking down the barriers to console exclusivity, releasing a lot of their games on other platforms like PlayStation, Nintendo, and obviously on PC, especially with Microsoft connection there. People had a lot of goodwill kind of being built up here for Nintendo or for fucking Xbox, Jesus. Uh, and it seemingly squandered a lot of it recently in a pretty puzzling move with those price increases. Excuse me there. But yeah, interesting move by them. Not sure how well it's going to work out. Probably not well, especially for a console company or for a video game company in general, I guess. That was already kind of losing the console wars, especially the PlayStation, pretty significantly in this past generation and two. Really haven't been doing much anything of good as far as competing with Nintendo or competing with PlayStation there since the 360. So even more puzzling for that. Why do all of this? But yeah, first of all, let's just kind of cover what actually happened here. Xbox increases their prices of their games. A lot of first party big games will hit $80 at least by this upcoming holiday season for 2025. Obviously, we've already seen somewhat price increases from 60 to 70 in a lot of cases. Another $10 increase seems to be coming here following the kind of queue from Nintendo, increasing a lot of their first party games to about $80 here, which isn't ideal, obviously, for a lot of consumers there. Silver lining, I guess, of game increases though for Xbox, especially compared to Nintendo, is Game Pass. Obviously, Nintendo has something like that, but it's not for their first-party games and really any recent games or anything, and isn't as good. But it is cheaper, I guess. But yeah, regardless, Game Pass is a terrific deal still. A lot of their first-party games, like Oblivion, like Call of Duty and stuff, now that they own both of those companies actually, and a lot of other big titles like Starfield and such. Did Starfield come out on the Game Pass? I don't know. I might have just lied. I don't know. But a lot of their first party games, a lot of other games in general come out on Game Pass. So will you need to actually buy a lot of these $80 games on game or on Xbox? Yet to see how that is going to work out or not. If they're going to increase prices of Game Pass or not. But regardless, that is what's kind of coming out here. On top of that, console increases, which I can forgive the game price increases a tiny bit, especially if Game Pass, if Xbox was doing this. But the bigger part of this that I'm kind of a little more interested in is the fairly substantial price increases for all of their current gen consoles for Xbox. The Xbox Series S, the 512 gigabytes, discless version and everything, the base edition that you all know and love, the little white tiny brick, going up from $380 USD all the way up to, or going from $300 USD all the way up to $380 USD. No longer really the budget kind of modular option in gaming. Now competing with the discless PlayStation 5, especially if it's on sale. Bit of a puzzling move there. Not as good of a console, and arguably a much cheaper game lineup over at PlayStation there, just without Game Pass if you're wanting to do that. Not a lot of storage either, obviously, on that console. And their other mainline console, the Xbox Series X Base Edition, going up from a price of $500 USD all the way up to $600 USD, a flat just $100 increase, pretty steep there. Their newest, most expensive console is the Series X 2TB edition, basically the Series X with an extra terabyte of internal, packaged in storage there, going up from the original price of $600 all the way up to $729.99, $730, $130 price increase. How they justified that extra $30 compared to the original Series X for essentially just another tera. Well, the only difference was an extra terabyte. I don't exactly know, but regardless, very puzzling move again. Xbox, a company that's built up a lot of goodwill, as I mentioned, from their exclusivity barrier breakdowns and their game releases and such recently, seemingly having squandered a lot of it here with this price increase announcement. Similar how Nintendo built up a good amount of hype with their press conferences and stuff for the Nintendo Switch 2 and immediately botched it with the announcement of all of the prices for all their games particularly, but even the Switch 2 was a little maybe overpriced. Probably $400 would have been a bit of better mark for them. But regardless, puzzling move. What makes this move even more puzzling is obviously, as I mentioned, Xbox has been losing the console war for the past 2 generations, this one included, since the 360 really. And they decide to make their games more expensive, accessories more expensive, I believe, as well as make their consoles mid to towards the end of the generation significantly more pricier and more expensive if you buy them new, anyways. It's a bit of a puzzling move. I don't know how they expect this to help sales. Obviously, you get a little more money per sale. That's how that works, obviously, but you're not going to sell as many, both of the consoles and the games. I guess you could argue maybe this price increases, especially on the games that is kind of marketed at, make Game Pass a better deal on paper because now it's like, oh, you're saving, you don't have to buy an $80 game now. But I don't know. With the knowledge of what came before and the fact that you artificially increase the prices of a lot of these games, it doesn't feel like an amazing deal or new deal or anything. It just seems like now this is really just the only option if I don't want to pay for kind of an overpriced game that with the track record of a lot of recent AAA games probably won't be that fucking good. But yeah, regardless, it's a bit of a puzzling move there on both fronts there for Xbox. A bit of an early release or an early announcement for this too. The games again don't expect to be increased prices until really towards the end of 2025. On top of this, a bit of a shock that they announced all this stuff and implemented it for the consoles before the Nintendo Switch 2 official release. I figured a lot of video games company would have waited until after a few weeks after that launch just to see how everything did with the pre-orders and then the launch and then a little bit after the launch and how people perceived that, how it did financially and stuff. But they're going all in. PlayStation and Steam, I guess if you want to lump them in, haven't increased prices. PlayStation actually somewhat recently decreased prices for the PlayStation VR 2 after that big holiday sale. So they've held steady as well as decreased prices on a lot of stuff, but which is generally what you do as consoles get older and in more into their generation. Offer better deals and bundles and prices. Xbox doing the opposite for some strange reason. Some reasoning for this, a lot of people always throw around inflation, but again, that affects everybody equally. Not everybody else is doing this. There's really no need to do this. You're still making plenty of money if you make good products and make good games. Tariffs, again, pretty fickle excuse. Tariffs comes and goes, doesn't affect everybody equally. Every tariffs, every country has different tariff systems. It's not a universal system by any means for the hundreds of countries that exist on the planet. It's a bit of a puzzling, it's a bit of a stretch to say it's tariff related for a lot of stuff, even for a U.S. based company with manufacturing around the globe. It's a bit of a stretch there, I think, in my opinion. Maybe add on top the cherry on top of everything. I think a large part of this is just increased prices in game production that we've seen in a lot of recent years. but again, that's artificial. Game companies and game studios obviously can make great games with little people and little budgets, like we've seen from Schedule One. On top of that, no, we're not the ones making video games more expensive. It's not just inflation. They're just putting more production costs into it, both directly into the game and everything they do with that, and hiring people and salary increases, which I fully support. Get your fucking money, of course. I'd love to work in that industry, but just making games more expensive and upping the cost just to up the cost, especially like marketing or stuff like that. It is not needed in my opinion. And even if you do it, be like Rockstar. Never miss on a game. Red Dead Redemption series is amazing. GTA series is amazing. LA Noire is amazing. Fucking Bully, if you want to go there, is amazing. Like they make really expensive video games and have upscaled. They don't increase the prices of all their games. I know they haven't had one release like a big one in a while, and people think GTA 6 is going to be expensive, which it probably will. But if you can justify the price of your games, uh, if you can justify the cost of your games by selling a lot of games because you make a really good game, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's $5 or $70 or $80. You'll make money and you'll sell a lot of copies. That's my thought on the matter. Doesn't need to necessarily raise the prices to make more money. Just make better fucking video games that people more and more want to buy as the industry continues to grow and your reputation continues to grow. But yeah, people don't really like that, especially companies like, big AAA companies, when you make stuff like Skull and Bones, like Starfield, like Anthem, like fucking Concord, I can get Ubisoft's really in a bad spot right now, Jesus. With a lot of the Assassin's Creed stuff that really didn't do well as the Far Cry and stuff that's been a little down. Make better games and you'll make more money. The problem wasn't the price and you missing out on an extra $10 or $20 per copy. The equilibrium was fine with the fucking economics charts if you want to go there. You just made good video games, people bought them. You made shitty video games, people bought less of them. I don't know. That's my thought on the matter. I don't like these price increases of both the hardware and the software and the video games here. Not a lot of good explanations in my opinion for reasoning behind them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's just my thought on it. Again, personally for me, if I'm getting into this current generation, I'm leaning a lot more towards PlayStation just because, again, they haven't increased prices. They're not doing this price gouging and like randomness stuff that Xbox is doing, making a lot of moves and random stuff. Plus, with barrier breakdowns as far as exclusivity goes, I can play a lot of Xbox games on PlayStation and PC now. Why do I need a direct Xbox that now also costs me more to get into in the first place? It's puzzling. It is definitely something. A lot of people I think are leaning towards PlayStation for this generation as of now, and if they keep down this path, I think it could be a huge booster to really eliminate Xbox out of the next console generation. PlayStation's gap will only continue to grow if they continue to be somewhat reasonable with their prices, with their video games and their hardware, and somewhat stay steady or lower prices. I think a lot of people will lean towards PlayStation. That's just my thoughts, though. But yeah, that about does it for this video and this whole rant, I guess. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this whole situation and price increases in general, not even just for Xbox if you want to do that. So yeah, comment down below all your thoughts on this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the channel and the content. If you do, I encourage you to like and subscribe. Definitely helps out the channel and the video, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys all for the support recently. It definitely means a lot for me. Yeah, hope you all take it easy. Have a happy Mother's Day tomorrow, and I'll catch you all later.